What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel. And we are back with another little tiny beef that I want to talk about and discuss because it actually has a very long history. And if you blinked, you may have missed this little moment, but I want to capture it and share it with everybody because I thought it was pertinent and was just an example of, like, I guess Ariel kind of slightly reopening the wound and the drama between him and Jamahal Hill. So once again, I'm going to rehash and explain the history of this beef, and then I'm going to show you the last little clip from an interview with Jiri Procházka at the very end. And by the way, an interview with Jiri is what kicked off this entire beef and this entire feud with Jamahal Hill from the get-go. Now, I've said many times, I've talked about Ariel's interviews and Ariel as a part of the MMA community, and I've explained over and over, I don't feel the same way the MMA Guru feels about him. I don't dislike him. He's my favorite journalist to listen to. So I hope you guys recognize that I give him full props and credit for his amazing interview skills and the things that he provides to the MMA community, despite his frayed relationship with the UFC. But this is an example of when people call Ariel he stirs the pot, or he kind of, we saw something recently with Turkey Al Sheikh calling Ariel out, whether or not that, and I kind of went through that video as well, saying I don't really know what Turkey Al Sheikh is talking about in terms of Ariel asking particular questions. But anyways, these are the types of things that it seems like fighters or promoters or other folks seem to have beef with Ariel about. And I do think in this particular case, Ariel is kind of in the wrong. Now, that being said, to say something negative about a fighter potentially that you actually believe, I think there's actually no problem with that. I think where people get hung up, and there's a clip in this video as well from MMA Guru where people that explains just this, where people get hung up or get upset, I think is it's not that Ariel may do this, because shoot, look at all the other YouTube content creators out there that are focusing on MMA. They talk crazy trash. They are way more aggressive towards the fighters than Ariel. I mean, Ariel's, I wouldn't even call it aggressive. It's more passive aggressive, really, right? When he makes these comments or he throws these little jabs very subtly in the way that he asks questions or things like that. It's not that. I think what rubs people the wrong way is when an MMA Guru calls us out, is when Ariel kind of acts like, yeah, I didn't do anything wrong. What are you getting so upset about? What are you getting so sensitive for? That's the part that I think rubs people the wrong way. Also, it's that notion where he holds himself out to be an unbiased source, a journalist. So I really do think people would not care whatsoever. He's like, look, yeah, I'm part journalist, but I'm also part giving my actual 2 cents, and I'm going to comment, and it's going to be a little bit subjective, and that's okay. I think that might actually get people to be like, oh, okay, fine. Now you're just admitting what it is. You're doing your best to be unbiased, but hey, there's going to be parts of your commentary and your show that's going to be subjective. All good. Cause I don't find it to be a problem really whatsoever. I actually think it's entertaining when he weighs in and gives his 2 cents, but I think that's where the disconnect is. And that's where people get upset and call him a pot stir, because it's like he's holding himself out to be something other than what he is. That's the issue. So anyways, I just want to cover this now. We're going to start at the beginning. If you guys are unaware of how the beef with Ariel and Jamahal Hill began, it began actually with one clip prior to this, but I'm just going to explain and give you context. It began with when Ariel interviewed Jiri Procházka, and it's funny that it's come back to another Jiri Procházka interview, but it began with an interview with Jiri Procházka where I guess he was saying some things about Jamahal Hill and his fighting and whatnot that were negative, and the two were going back and forth, and Jamahal Hill heard that interview and he took issue with it. He felt like Ariel was talking trash about him and he didn't appreciate that. So he decided to address Ariel and tell him what he was what he was upset with. And other fighters have done this as well. If they're upset or they're offended by something Ariel has said, I think they, on the show, probably also off air, they've had a discussion with them. They've tried to talk it out, as our Ariel puts it, squash the beef, right? Settle the beef, settle the score, and get back on good terms. So this is Jamahal Hill almost doing that in real time for the comments that Ariel had with Jiri Procházka. So check this out. But what happens is, in this clip, is Ariel does something I think is pretty unfair. And when Jamahal Hill is trying to address one thing, Ariel then brings in something unrelated to this. I mean, he might argue it's related, but it was unrelated to the issue at hand. And I think it was done very intentionally to throw Jamahal Hill under the bus for comments that he said, where he could easily, if people weren't too savvy, get the better of him in terms of this exchange. And it's a bit of gaslighting. MMA Guru calls it out, and I do agree, because I don't think there was any reason to bring this up out of the blue. I think Ariel just got on the defensive, and as a mechanism to get the attention off him and to kind of get out of that uncomfortable situation, it was he brings up another issue and literally tries to gaslight Jamahal Hill. So this is the beginning of this entire debacle, I guess you could say, this entire feud. So we're going to start off here just to refresh your memory. Check this out.
Look, I missed it, cuz this was me addressing this shit you said. I was, like I said, I was traveling Monday. I had some things. You got a little loose with the lips with a couple of the fellas. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what y'all was maybe drinking some Long Island iced tea. You look like you might drink a sex on the beach or something, you know. I don't know what y'all going on for, but y'all was talking. Y'all was loose lipping in a little too much.
Too much? We got too comfortable?
Got a little too comfortable. Yeah, you know.
Okay, well, you're okay, so here's the thing. Let's keep it real. Can we keep it real?
That's all I know how to do.
All right, so you're upset at me. Okay, maybe you're not upset. You're just calling me out. You felt some sort of way about me saying this about Jiri and me saying that about Alex, apparently.
And by the way, I think it would have been much easier if Ariel would have just exactly addressed those particular things that he said and said, look, this is why I said it. I understand if you feel a certain way, but there are times when I need to give my opinion or I need to weigh in, and it's not going to exactly make you feel good because maybe I'm going to feel like they're a better matchup. They have the advantage, whatever it was. I don't even remember the exact negative things that Jamahal Hill is getting upset about, but instead of just addressing those particular things, he sidesteps. And then on top of it, what you're going to see is, and I've mentioned on this channel, I don't know if you guys are regular watchers or new time watchers, but like I've mentioned before, I'm an attorney. I just don't practice anymore. But what he then does is he almost interrogates and asks questions. This is part of the gaslighting, the way that an attorney does. And what you want to do when you're an attorney and you're interrogating somebody, whether it's in a deposition or on the stand, is you make it so that the questions are yes or no. What this does is this allows you to control the dialogue and the conversation so that you can't ask a question and then get an answer that you don't like. So you ask it in a very narrow way and you say yes or no, yes or no. So it's going to be, and basically where you're pinning the person down, you know they're going to have to answer the way that you want, and then you can continue on the conversation. So it's a way to extract and elicit responses exactly in line with whatever point you're trying to prove. So just watch, and hopefully you'll kind of see what I'm talking about right here.
All that stuff. Here's the thing, and that's fine, and that's fair game. I believe it's fair game for me to say that because, hey, look, you know, I'm doing a sports show. I'm talking about MMA. We talk about it a lot. Like, I got to be real with my opinions and feelings too. And I think maybe somewhere deep down inside, you respect that. Now, here's the
right there. That was perfect, actually. What he said right there, if you would have just left it alone, I think that was great. Look, sometimes I got to give my opinions. Maybe you're not going to agree with them, and just approach it head on, and maybe even be like, look, if your feelings were hurt, that was never my intention, something like that. Here's where it goes off the rails. And I think this is, again, Ariel being defensive and just trying to cover his tracks, and going back to this notion of what he's criticized for a lot is just never wanting to admit any sort of fault or any sort of wrongdoing. And I think this is his defense mechanism so that he doesn't feel that way. Check this out.
Obviously, a big story over the last few weeks has been the Dana White situation. You were probably the most vocal fighter on the...
This is Dana White when he got into an altercation with his wife on vacation in Mexico, where there was video footage of her slapping him and him slapping her back.
Roster about that situation, right? And a lot of people... Well, let me finish about that. Did you ever hear me say, my opinions on Jamahal have changed? Jamahal shouldn't have said... Did you ever hear me say your name at all? When you were, you know, I saw you going back and forth with a lot of people, and I'll be honest, didn't agree with a lot of your things that you said, and I could have been like, F that guy, da-da-da-da. No, I didn't say anything. Did you hear me shit on you then? Did you hear me criticize you? Did you hear me disparage you? Did you hear me say anything negative about you? Did you hear me even put your name in that bucket? Did you hear any of that? Because you seem to know a lot about what I'm saying. Did you hear any of that?
You talking about the whole, the Twitter exchange and all those things. No, because you weren't supposed to, because I wasn't in that situation. Everybody on the internet tried to drag me into
well, you
that
commented
situation.
on it.
I made a simple statement.
Sure.
I made a simple everything basically, and I'm gonna put it like this. If everybody keeps their hands to themselves, nobody puts their hands on nobody, nobody gets assaulted. There's no, you know what I mean? Nobody gets hit. Period. Everybody keep their hands to themselves. That's what I was saying. That's where I'm leaving that shit.
100%.
So now I just want to give you guys context. Apparently, I don't even remember the exact tweet, but what Jamahal Hill is saying is, and he even said, hey, I tell my daughter the same thing. I tell people the same thing. He was not in any way condoning essentially like the reciprocal nature of that exchange. Like, oh, Dana White was hit, so then he has the right to hit back. He wasn't saying that. I guess what he was saying at the beginning is the principle that we should follow in general, regardless of gender, nobody should hit anybody. Now, that's not really a hot take. That's the way the law is written. The law is not written so that battery is only one-sided. Like if a male hits a female, then it's battery or assault or whatnot. And if it's the other way, it's all good. We brush it under the rug. No, assault is assault. Battery is battery. So essentially that was Jamahal Hill's take. What Ariel then proceeds to do in an indirect way via questioning is he paints it as if Jamahal Hill is then condoning. Like, it's crazy, and it's done very sneakily. So it's not put out there. He doesn't say that explicitly, but he makes a pretty heavy insinuation that Jamahal Hill is basically condoning what Dana White did by saying that nobody should hit anybody. But I think in Jamahal Hill's defense, really all he's doing is reiterating the actual law and not letting people get too caught up in the gender differences or whatnot. It's just like, at the end of the day, nobody should hit anybody. And if you don't agree with that, I don't know what to tell you, because that's the way our legal system works. That's the way law works. Simple, done. Okay, now watch what happens here. This is the part that really got people upset and really got Jamahal Hill upset as well.
But it created a stir. I'm not asking for your opinion on that. All I'm talking about is because you're like, yo, I didn't take shots at you. So if the worst thing that you could say on me is, oh, Ariel thinks this guy is, what's that?
What shots would there have been to take at me? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, yo, it got, I mean, it was going back and forth.
The back and forth on the Twitter was motherfuckers talking shit to me. And most of that was just me addressing shit about the fight and things like that. That had nothing to do. I wasn't defending nobody. You know what I'm saying?
Well, for the record, I mean, my feeling is, if you care, like, I agree with no one should touch anyone, but I also agree if a woman hits you, you shouldn't hit her back. That's my opinion. So we disagree on that, maybe, right? I didn't take shots at you. I didn't criticize you.
I didn't say that. You see, you just assume that. I never said that. I never said, oh, a man shouldn't hit. I just said nobody should hit anybody. Why even poke the bear?
That was pretty bad. He's like, did you see him slide that in? What I was saying is a man should never hit the woman, but maybe we disagree on that. What I mean, that's really bad. He is really putting words into Jamahal Hill's mouth at that point, in my opinion. This is what got people riled up. And I think Jamahal Hill, even in the heat of the moment, didn't realize what was happening. And then after the fact, he went back and rewatched the interview. MMA Guru watched it, and people got upset. And then Jamahal Hill got even more upset and be like, now I see what you did there. That was not cool. And why did he do that? I mean, it was, again, he didn't bring it up off the jump. I don't even think he was going to mention it, but it was him trying to slide out from a position where he felt like he was being attacked, right? So it was a defense mechanism. So, all right, it's that same thing with that same mindset. What's the best? A good offense is the best defense. That's basically what he did. He went on the offensive, and he knew he could pull this out in his back pocket. He had this in his back pocket, pulled it out, boom, threw Jamahal Hill under the bus, and that's how it went. So that's how it began. Now we're going to go to MMA Guru's thoughts, because he caught this interview, and rightfully so. I think he called out Ariel in this particular example. Again, not trying to beat up on Ariel in a general sense. I'll say it again. I said it before. I'll say it again. Massive fan of his show. Been watching him for forever. He does the best interviews in the game. And sometimes, look, it wasn't cool. He made a mistake. I think MMA Guru calls him out very appropriately here for this. And I think had he not done this, people would have missed this. So check this out.
This message is for Ariel Helwani.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, this is MMA Guru responding to, this is when Jamahal Hill, after he realizes, he made a message to Ariel, basically talking about the incident, saying how he feels. And this is MMA Guru alongside giving commentary. Both are really relevant and really good to the story. So I'll keep playing it.
Now, Ariel and Jiri got together last night and had an interview. And as a lot of you already know and have seen, Ariel's dirty, sneaky tactics that he likes to use to get over on fighters. And he does this all the while being completely, man, just a punk about it and doesn't own up to any of it.
True. This is the problem that Ariel has. He doesn't know whether he wants to be the guy that can trash talk these fighters or the guy that can be the defender of the fighters. And don't worry, MMA fighters, I'll protect you from the evil Dana White, basically, is what Ariel tries to be. But what he doesn't realize is if you're going to be trash talking the fighters and sending shots at these fighters, that's okay. You know what I mean? I've trash talked fighters, but I don't then get to go and say, no, I didn't. You're the one in the wrong. You just don't understand what I'm saying. I don't get to gaslight them into thinking that it's all them being emotional and I'm not actually insulting the fighter. If I've insulted a fighter like I insulted Merab Dvalishvili, I'm not going to be in an interview with Merab and say, no, I didn't. You're in the wrong for taking it that way, and completely gaslight him. You can't have both, Ariel. If you want to live this life of being able to say what you want, you got to be able to face the consequences if they do so arise.
So that's it. That was the point I was making initially. By the way, I just realized this video is prior to Jamahal Hill going on Ariel's show and the gaslighting ensued. So that's why he's not bringing it up. He's solely talking about how Jamahal Hill felt about the Jiri interview, which then prompted that entire exchange that we just saw. But this is where everything stems from, is MMA Guru basically saying, look, if you're going to not really trash, but like kind of not to the same extent that MMA Guru trash talks people or MMA Joey or these other guys, but if you're going to cross those boundaries, you have to be open and willing to take criticism and feedback when it comes your way. And I think that's a fair point.
You don't get to live both sides of the fence here, where you can trash these fighters and then all of a sudden when they're in front of you, you're their best friend, right? No problem here. I'm your best friend. What do you mean you don't like me? Oh, that was another interview when I was trash talking you. You're in front of me now, so I can be loyal to you. Basically, the problem with this is that Ariel Helwani is one of these people who's loyal to whoever is in front of him at the time. And that's a bad person. We're going to keep going now.
Keep throwing shade at me. You have an agenda, have a problem with me for whatever reason, right? Maybe it's due to the fact of last time when I came on your show, after my championship fight, you tried your tactics on me. And
True. That's the video I made going after Ariel. I think it's got like 99,000 views. Probably going to hit 100K now that Jamahal Hill shouted it out. So thank you, dude. Probably going to hit 100K. Of breaking down Ariel's interview with Jamahal Hill, where he basically tried to paint. I'm not even over exaggerating when I'm saying.
All right, never mind. No, so this is after that interview because he talks about this. So now, here he's going to call it out exactly what we just saw, and I think that's the good thing about MMA Guru. He's very intelligent, and I think he hit the nail on the head here, which you can all see with your own eyes when I watched played that last clip of what Ariel was really trying to do. Okay, I'm going to let him take over control once again.
Yes. He basically, as soon as he realized he couldn't win a verbal argument on a minor level with Jamahal Hill, he basically tried to, for lack of better words, paint Jamahal Hill as a man who is okay with Dana White slapping his wife in the face and a man who is okay with men slapping women.
That's exactly right, right? And I think that's what we saw. Again, he might have that plausible deniability because he didn't explicitly. Actually, no, he did explicitly say that. I don't think Ariel has plausible deniability there, but it is what it is. All right, now we move on. I guess Ariel made some response. I'm only going to play a small clip of this when he was commentating for DAZN, reaching out to Jamahal Hill. This is a clip of Jamahal Hill watching that response in real time and providing receipts and showing another instance where in this case, Ariel, I guess, is kind of bending the truth. I hate to say that because Ariel normally wouldn't do, I don't know what's exactly going on, but Ariel is framing it as saying like, hey, I thought everything was all good with our text exchanges. And now this is news to me that you made this whole video response and got upset. And then Jamahal Hill shows that that's not true at all. And he shows that there was quite a prickly exchange between the two via text messages. It was really weird. Anyways, whatever. But so this is Jamahal Hill now continuing on as to why he's more and more upset with Ariel Helwani. Check this out.
And this is going to be me watching his response and giving my take on it.
They were asking me a lot about Jamahal Hill, the former UFC light heavyweight champion, who has had some things to say about me on his YouTube channel and over the last few months. And I don't know where.
First of all, I'm the current UFC champion. The belt isn't gone anywhere just yet. Two,
this is after I think Jamahal Hill had he had that Achilles tear or something from a basketball game. So I think they were scheduling a new bout for a new champion. The winner of that bout's going to be the champion. So I mean, it's a minor point. I don't know if Ariel was throwing shade by calling him the former champ or whatnot, since he hadn't officially vacated yet. but whatever. You know, obviously he's already perturbed, so he's going to point out that distinction to act like Ariel's throwing shade. Maybe he was. I don't know. All right.
I've only addressed you on my YouTube channel. That was it. I haven't talked about you. I haven't watched any of your content whatsoever, because that's what you do when you don't like somebody.
Where we got off on the wrong foot, because the last text conversation that I had with Jamal was actually very nice and cordial one, but for whatever reason, there's been a bit of a heel turn as of late, and so I don't think...
Now, we're going to let the heel turn thing go because you're very good with the English language, so there's a bunch of other phrases you can use. I actually think that was kind of funny, you know. But our last text conversation was not cordial. Again, you can't keep it real. You capping. You trying to make it seem like, oh, this is coming from out of nowhere and you haven't done anything, like you haven't been taking shots at me for months. You've been the one taking shots this whole time, not me. You got the screenshot, text message I pull up. This is text message from me and Ariel Helwani.
Notice the emoji. He put a snake for Ariel, which I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny.
This is him texting me, asking me what I mean about this Twitter link on Twitter where him and Joe Rogan got into it, and Joe Rogan said that he puts words in people's mouth. And he said he didn't do it. And my question on the tweet was, what was our interview? So he's asking me, what was that? And I say, what do you think? I asked you first. Not really. The post in itself was a question. Then he goes back and shares an old text message saying where I said, I enjoy our exchanges. All right, cool. Completely irrelevant. Then I go to, yeah, I watched our video back and I feel that you really did some hoe ass shit. Are you being serious? How was what you did not? Right? So our last text conversation was not cordial and it was not nice. But he will try to say that to make it seem like he doesn't know where this is coming from. And it's coming from out of nowhere. And if you look on the data there, that's from February.
Crazy. And that one actually is a little surprising to me because, and maybe Ariel forgot in his defense, because maybe what you usually don't see from Ariel is explicit misstatements, if you want to put it that way, where it's obviously you can easily disprove what he's saying. I feel like he's pretty careful about that and prides himself on that, of being like, I have receipts. I'll tell you exactly what went down. Maybe where we get into a little bit more murky area is where when he has plausible deniability, he's like, look, I was just asking a question, even though maybe the question was meant to elicit a particular response, right? In those situations, he will perhaps deny any wrongdoing, and he can kind of get away with that because there's not explicit evidence. Here, I'm just kind of shocked that he would even go that route. So my only because he's smarter than that normally, but maybe he forgot that they had that text exchange or something like that. So that's the only conclusion I can come to. But yeah, I mean, unless those texts are fabricated, which I highly doubt, I'm really doubt. I'm sure Jamal Hill, that was the real deal. I don't know why Ariel would do that when he could so easily be like, dude, what are you talking? That blew my mind a little bit. All right, now we get to what just went down. So that was all the context. That was the history. Now we get to what went down yesterday and where it all started. Now it's all where it circles back to another interview with Jiri Procházka. Now this is the most subtle thing. It's the slightest thing. It's not anything major or massive like what he did to him in the previous interview where he tried to paint him as a sympathizer for what Dana White did. That was really bad. This is not that bad, but it's again Ariel throwing shade at Jamal Hill. It does it very subtly where again he has that plausible deniability because he's just doing it via asking a question. But but just listen to how he asks this question. It's almost like he definitely is almost intentionally playing a little dumb to elicit that nice response from Jiri, which is again, it's aimed at Jamal Hill. I don't know. You guys check for yourself, but this is definitely my interpretation.
What surprised me was Jamal Hill's performance. I thought like about after his like a lot of trash talking and his words, he would show like a much better fight than he showed. Yeah.
Even in the aftermath of the fight, like they were talking to each other after 25 minutes. and it was a little weird because he had 25 minutes to fight him, and then he's like in his face. But it was strange, you know, to do that when you have a whole fight and nothing really happened in the fight, and then in the aftermath you're doing the talking thing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, man. That's why I said like it was a strange from the Khalil that he left him like to recover and still survive the fight, and Jamal didn't show anything, and he was still like too how to say, too self-confident after the fight. So man, go if you want to fight on the top level, go there and show your best. Totally.
Okay, so anyways, just to recap that last little bit, is he goes, yeah, I was kind of surprised you're talking all that trash before and after the fight, but yet during the fight, you had the chance. It was kind of confusing, right? Basically saying he's all talk, and then he's not, once he gets in there, he's not able to back it up. That's obviously what the insinuation is. It was pretty clear, pretty obvious. Just one little jab, one little poke at the bear. So I don't know, is the feud reignited, or is it just something little? I don't know if Jamal Hill's even paying attention to this or whatnot, but I caught it. I want to point it out, as I do often on this channel. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think, with this entire recap, again, there's lots more clips out there that I didn't include. I just want to give you guys a brief overview of the history and get you up to date on what was just recently said. But given everything in the history, do you think Ariel's in the wrong? Do you think Jamal Hill's in the wrong? Do you think the truth lies somewhere in between? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As an aside, cannot wait for Jiri Procházka versus Khalil Roundtree. What an epic fight this will be. I cannot wait. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining, and make sure to click subscribe if you want to see more from the 10-7 MMA channel. That's all we got for today, and I will see you in the next video. Take it easy.